Judge Angela Morrison had been navigating the world without sight for 12 years, ever since the accident that changed everything. But with Rex by her side, a perfectly trained German Shepherd service dog, she had reclaimed her independence and continued her distinguished career on the federal bench. This particular Tuesday evening, she was walking home from the courthouse, taking her usual route through the quiet residential neighborhood. Rex walked steadily beside her, his harness guiding her safely around obstacles, his presence both practical and comforting. The evening air was crisp, and Angela was mentally reviewing the complex civil rights case she'd be hearing tomorrow when she heard the screech of tires and car doors slamming. "Ma'am, step away from the dog," a voice shouted. Angela stopped, confused. "I'm sorry, what's wrong?" "We got reports of an aggressive dog in this area." "Step back." "This is my service dog," Angela called out, her voice steady but concerned. "He's completely trained and certified." "Is there some kind of misunderstanding?" She heard footsteps approaching rapidly, and Rex shifted slightly, maintaining his position but not moving aggressively. He had been trained for exactly this kind of situation, to remain calm and protective without appearing threatening. "That dog is showing aggressive posture," another voice yelled. "Move away now." "Officers, I'm Judge Angela Morrison from the Federal District Court," she said, raising her voice to be heard clearly. "This is Rex, my certified service dog. He's not being aggressive, he's doing his job, which is to guide and protect me." But her words seemed to fall on deaf ears. The tension in the air was palpable, and she could hear the officers moving around them in a circle. "He's positioning to attack," one of them shouted. The sound that followed would haunt Angela forever, a sharp crack that echoed through the quiet street. Rex collapsed beside her with a whimper that cut straight to her heart. "Rex," she screamed, dropping to her knees and reaching for her companion. Her hands found his warm fur, now wet with blood. "What have you done? What have you done?" The silence that followed was deafening. Then she heard whispered conversations, the kind that happen when people realize they've made a terrible mistake. "Did she say judge?" "Federal judge." "Oh God." Angela cradled Rex as his breathing grew shallow. Through her tears, she spoke in the commanding voice that had silenced countless courtrooms. "I am Federal Judge Angela Morrison of the Eastern District. This dog was my eyes, my independence, my companion. He was certified by the Americans with Disabilities Act and posed no threat to anyone." The senior officer's voice was shaky now. "Your Honor, we received reports of an aggressive dog. What you received," Angela said, her voice cutting through the night air like steel, "were reports that you failed to investigate properly. What you saw was a trained service dog doing exactly what he was supposed to do, staying close to his handler and remaining alert. What you've done is shoot a federal judge's service dog without cause, without proper assessment, and without regard for the law you've sworn to uphold." Rex's breathing had stopped. Angela held him close, her tears falling onto his still form. The aftermath was swift and unforgiving. The incident made national headlines within hours. Security footage from a nearby business showed clearly that Rex had never displayed aggressive behavior. He had simply been standing calmly beside his handler, exactly as trained. The officers involved were suspended pending investigation. The city faced a federal lawsuit not just for the wrongful shooting of a service dog, but for violating the Americans with Disabilities Act and potentially Judge Morrison's civil rights. But no lawsuit could bring back Rex, and no settlement could restore the independence Angela had lost. As she sat in her chambers a week later, a new guide dog still weeks away from arrival, she reflected on the irony that those sworn to protect and serve had destroyed the very thing that allowed her to serve justice. The case would eventually lead to mandatory training for all local police departments on service animal laws and disability rights. Rex's legacy would be measured not just in the justice he helped his handler deliver from the bench, but in the justice his death would ultimately serve. Angela Morrison would return to her courtroom, eventually with a new companion by her side. But she would never forget the night that justice walked on 4 legs, and how quickly it could be taken away by those who failed to see beyond their own fears and assumptions. Her final ruling on the case against the city, Judge Morrison wrote, "A service dog is not just a pet or an animal, it is a bridge to independence, a guardian of dignity, and often the difference between isolation and full participation in society. When we fail to protect these partnerships, we fail to protect the fundamental rights of our most vulnerable citizens." The courtroom was silent as she delivered those words, Rex's replacement guide dog lying quietly at her feet, a living reminder that justice, like trust, once broken, must be carefully rebuilt, one case at a time.